Did you know that your money story and how you relate to your self-worth are actually embedded in your astrology chart? Better yet, that you can work with your birth chart to help you write a new story about money and up level your money mindset so you can attract better cash flow and clients into your business. That's what we're talking about in today's episode of the podcast, where I have a special guest with me, Sarah Mack. Sarah is a writer and a creative business mentor. She is a fellow copywriter who is also using astrology in her work. And she's helping those entrepreneurs work with their astrology chart to unlock their money story and change that so that they can attract more cash flow and clients into their businesses. Get comfy, listen up, and enjoy this episode, this interview with the amazing Sarah Mack. I'm really excited to have a guest with me today, Sarah Mack, who is also a copywriter and an astrologer and a money mindset mentor. And we are here today to talk all about working with astrology and your money mindset, or how you can use your own astrology to, I guess, create more money in your business. Tell me a bit about your journey, how you got to be doing this, and why astrology and why money and all the things.
So it's a bit of a long and winding tale, but I will summarize it for you. Basically, I was working in the film industry and I was doing my master's in film, and I had a giant burnout. I discovered the world of online entrepreneurship, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I really wanted to be able to just travel with my laptop and be able to work from anywhere. And my friend invited me out to help her on her business in Bali, and I was doing her social media and editing. She was like a doctor and a wellness coach. And when I was out there, she was like, oh, you're really good at copywriting. I was like, what's copywriting? And that's kind of how I fell into it. And she introduced me to some other writers who were out there, like living the digital nomad dream. And I took one of them out for lunch and asked her, do you really think I could be a writer? Do you really think I could make money from this? And she kind of like grilled me and was like, are you a real writer? And asked me all these questions. And she was like, it seems like you're a real writer. And I was like, really? Oh. And she told me how to find clients on Fiverr.com, which was
right.
Like where it's like, gigs. And I started off as an editor. And I literally just put a bunch of gigs up for $5 and was like, I'll edit 250 words, or I'll write 250 words of copy. And, started investing in learning copywriting. And I started attracting a lot of clients. And because I was charging such low rates, I really didn't feel bad about just kind of figuring out on the job. And that's kind of how I became a copywriter. And I just, had a knack for it. And there was obviously a huge demand for it. And I slowly just, started getting a lot of 5-star reviews, and my career really took off within a very short period of time. And I attracted a lot of coaches as clients. And that was really what introduced me to the coaching industry. And I would always ask clients to send me websites of people that they aspired to be like and brands that they admired. And so I would see I was introduced to all of these really amazing entrepreneurs who were just like living the dream life and making squillions of dollars and, doing all these cool things. So I ended up in a business coaching program, and that's where I was introduced to the concept of mindset. And obviously I needed help with that because I was charging $5 for my gigs. So I had a lot of work to do in my own relationship with money. And it was just a whole new world for me, having to choose my own prices and figure out how to, have value as a creative. And it brought up a lot of limiting mindsets that I'd picked up along the way, that you can't make money as a creative and that your creativity isn't valued in the economy, and just a lot of self-worth stuff, a lot of anxiety around asking for money and, making these decisions in business every day and trying to get my, pay my bills, trying to make enough money to go back to Canada and be with my partner. And so I really had a lot of mindset work to do. I was very avoidant financially, I was one of those people that just said yes to every credit card I was offered. And like, I was really in debt, and I was just like traveling the world, like Taylor Swift on tour, without the income to match. And I was not in a good place financially. I just finished my master's, which, I'd had a lot of funding for, but I still had to, cover a lot of my expenses. So, I really had a lot of work to do around money. And as I was writing copy for clients, and I started my own copywriting agency, and, I doubled my income. So I very quickly replaced my kind of like freelance income from working on film crews. And then within a year of really focusing on business and mindset and my relationship with money and learning how to package and sell my work, I'd launched my own copywriting agency. I doubled my income within 1 year, and I was like, holy shit, this stuff works, like this is good. This is working. I'm seeing the evidence and the results. And, and I specialized in working with coaches and women entrepreneurs. And so I would see that you can give someone the most strategically perfect piece of copy, but if they've got mindset stuff around selling and around following through on their launch and having confidence in their story and their offer, that they're never going to turn that piece of copy into actual sales. And so that really inspired me to bring the mindset piece into the work that I was doing with clients. And eventually, I wanted to work on my own creative projects. I wanted to write for myself, and I was spending so many hours writing for other clients that I could see how, I wanted to shift that model, and I wanted to be doing more consulting and coaching and create scalable programs. And so I launched my coaching business, which focused initially just on the money mindset side of things. And I doubled my income again, and I got to 6 figures within just over 13 months of launching my coaching business. So, I was like, this stuff is so powerful. And I just really believe in the power of, number one, knowing how to sell and, put what it is that you do into words. And I'd really, I'd written for thousands of different types of entrepreneurs in those initial years as a copywriter. And I've seen everything, you can have a business around absolutely anything that you have passion around. If you think it's valuable, for sure, there are other people out there who think it's valuable. And I learned a lot about digital marketing and, and the money mindset work. And then, eventually I kind of integrated both of those skills. And now I do, intuitive business strategy, and I work with a lot of creatives and really help people kind of find their way in to strategy with whatever skill sets and, likes and dislikes they have, and teach people really the fundamentals of selling and copywriting and brand storytelling. Astrology was one of those things that I don't know when it came into my life, but I remember it was maybe about 4 years ago now. I took a beginner's course in astrology, and I was like, I know nothing about astrology. I'm so excited to learn. And I showed up to the course and I was like, hang on a minute, I know a lot of this stuff already. Like, how did this information get in my brain? I guess I've just been watching YouTube videos and stuff like that. And it really helped me to just gain confidence and clarity in my own story and some of the aspects of my story that I'd really been feeling intuitively called to talk about, but were kind of edgy and taboo and scary for me to talk about online. And so, it gave me a lot of confidence to start sharing more of my story. And I just saw how that translated into even more like amazing clients coming into my business and with even more ease, and how they would have even more confidence in wanting to buy my offers because they saw me really for who I was. And they, people choose you for you, right? And so I saw how it was such a useful tool to use with my clients to help them have that clarity and confidence that really helps when you're selling yourself on the internet, and
absolutely.
And just as a way to see, you have that mirror reflection of what you feel you're really good at and also what you feel challenged by in business and money, which, can be very complicated things to confront on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Yes. So can I ask you, would you be willing to share what has been the most, I guess, light bulb or aha moment about your own astrology chart? Is there some aspect in there that you're like, this makes so much sense to me now? Like, is there something that really stands out to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the thing for me was actually discovering my Scorpio placements, because, I think
Yes.
as a British person, the whole culture, and I'm sure Australians probably aren't that far off, probably aren't quite as stiff upper lipped as we are in England. It's like shove everything under the carpet. Like, we don't talk about uncomfortable taboo things. We
Yeah.
just act like it doesn't exist. And
Mm.
so a big part of my healing around my relationship with money, it caused me to look at a lot of my childhood trauma, because, well, what's the root of all of this lack of self-worth and lack of self-belief? Like, no, I couldn't possibly make good money being who I am and being a creative, and like, that goes against everything that I've been taught. And so it kind of caused me to go into the past. And this was really a very natural process that started unfolding as I looked at my relationship with money. And, it turned into like a massive, like, trauma healing process for me.
Wow.
And looking at just like the misogyny in my family, how like the women in my family were treated, and how, I had created a limited self-worth and self-identity based on growing up in an environment like that. And even after leaving the UK and seeing how, even in the tabloids, the way that they talk about women, and so many like successful women, especially creatives, are kind of like berated and torn down. And it wasn't until
Yeah.
I left that I was able to see that that was the water that I was swimming in growing up. And I actually discovered that I experienced sexual trauma when I was younger, and that memory didn't come up until much later. But I have my Saturn placement in Scorpio, and it's in the third
Oh.
house. And, it's created a lot of tension in my family, and talking about it with my siblings. And it's been a big challenge that I've had to navigate, that, is absolutely connected to the work that I do, and in reclaiming my own voice and my own truth, and, sharing my story and creating empowerment for myself, and how, so many other people have experienced similar things. And it's so important to be able to claim our self-worth if we want to experience financial empowerment, right? And I noticed that a lot of the feelings that come from trauma or abuse, or feeling disrespected, or feeling out of control, or feeling overwhelmed, that might come from childhood memories, these can get triggered around conversations around money, because it's so directly connected to our security and our survival. So I was experiencing, every time I sat down to try and organize my money, I felt so overwhelmed. I felt really out of
Yeah.
control. I felt like I wasn't able to meet my own needs, because I didn't have any of these of the skills. I was never taught this. I'm sure a lot of people
Yeah.
resonate with that. So
Mm-hmm.
that, combined with my Gemini Chiron, which is all about the wound of words, like not being heard, not having a voice, having to stay silent. So when I started talking about these things more openly in my social media, number one, a lot of my existing clients came forward and were like, I've experienced really similar things. And I started attracting a lot of clients who knew that, if they were going through what I now understand as complex PTSD, when you've had, complex and abusive upbringings, how that really is something that you have to navigate and tackle head on when you're in entrepreneurship, because there's so
Yeah.
much growth. And there's a lot of ways that our bodies react when we're when we're dealing with trauma. So a lot of clients were able to see, I'm not perfect, and my life isn't super easy. And so I think it gives other people permission to know it is possible to succeed financially and creatively and doing things that you love, while navigating, a lot of complex health situations. And yeah, it was scary to talk about, obviously, but, the fact that it's been able to help so many other people and has led to so many incredible fruitful relationships with clients, and as actually, it's turned into a book. I'm writing a book now about my journey with healing my relationship with money, and what it really took, and, what came up for me around that, and what I've learned, that I think is really important and valuable information for more people to have.
Wow. Yeah. I think it's really interesting that understanding of trauma plays out in how we work with money and what we associate money with, and how that then shows up in our lives and maybe not just money, maybe it's absolutely around self-worth. And that's represented in astrology too, isn't it? Like the house of money and self-worth.
is the same thing.
Right, exactly.
So it's so intricately connected there. So it's amazing that you have been able to go through this process of unpacking it for yourself and then are able to help your clients with that. What is something simple that we can do to start understanding our money story and start working with it in a more productive way, and, you know, build in a more productive way of working with our own money issues?
So I really like the idea of money hygiene. You know, it's like something that should just be tended to every day if you want it to be
Yeah.
healthy. Like
Yes.
when we're young, we're taught to brush our teeth, and I'm sure it's very difficult for us when we're young to learn how to hold the toothbrush, and I'm sure it tastes disgusting and we don't like doing it, and we're like, what is this weird thing that I'm being asked to do? And it's highly uncomfortable. But as adults, you know, we don't brush our teeth on like the beginning of the month and expect to have nice breath at the end of the month. Like we know that when we have this healthy habit, like our partners still want to kiss us when they come home from work at the end of the day. Like we don't have teeth dropping out. Like there's consequences that happen when we participate in this hygiene habit. So I think money's the exact same thing. And you know, yeah, like it can feel really uncomfortable in the beginning if you don't have healthy habits around money, and it can feel really overwhelming, and you could go, I don't know how to do this. And like, where you need teachers, you know, like seek support. And there's no one right way to do it. You know, that's where it differs a little bit from brushing your teeth. Like there are many approaches and there are many different ways to make it work for you. And the only way you're going to get there is by being in that conversation, you know, like a relationship. You don't just, you know, show up on date night and expect to have a good relationship if you've never had any communication since last date night with your partner. You know, it's like you ask them how they are, how was their day, you know, if they're going through a rough patch, like it might not be fun for you to hear about it, but you care about them, and so you show up for that. And so bring in that same level of care and engagement in your relationship with money, so that it shows up for you, you know, not just when you demand it, but all the time. And something really simple that you can do, and I did this, you know, religiously and in depth every day. And this is really the reason why I got to six figures so quickly, I believe, based on having, you know, very little business education, was to just write down, what are my thoughts right now? To do an inventory, you know, to just like look at what's there, write down your current thoughts, write down your worries, you know, write down your spiraling anxieties, and just acknowledge them. You know, don't try and shove them under the carpet, don't try and numb them out or ignore them, and just create space for them and look at them and address them. And then one by one, cross them out and ask yourself, what's a better story that I could be telling right now? Like, what do I wish was true? What makes me feel a little bit more hopeful and optimistic or easeful in my relationship with money? And really building out the belief that money can be easy, you know, it can be simple and it can be easy. And even if it's not comfortable, you know, you're willing, like I'm willing to be in this relationship. I'm willing to make it better. I'm willing to participate. I'm willing to seek solutions. I'm willing to do something different to create a different result. You know, acknowledging your desires. Like, what is it that you desire for your life? What is the dollar amount that actually costs? And really being willing to look for solutions and to take different actions. So that, you know, money mindset work, just spending, you know, I like to set the timer for 3 minutes and do this. And then when the timer goes off, set it again and then write the new stories, like 6 minutes a day. There's no excuses for not doing that. And then the next one is to just look in your bank account, you know, again, just be present in the relationship, just check it. And these two habits alone, by nature, they're going to inspire different action. You know, you're going to notice like, oh, there was a fraudulent charge on my card. I'm going to dispute that, which maybe you wouldn't notice if you were in complete avoidance. Or there's that subscription that actually I'm not using anymore, so I'm going to cancel that. Or, you know, I'm coming to the end of the month and I don't have enough cash. Like, what can I do to generate more money? Or I'm going to ask that person that I borrowed, you know, I lent money a while ago, or I'm going to ask to borrow some money, or I'm going to launch something new, or take up a side gig to bring in some more money. And it just naturally paying attention in this way naturally starts to shift your behavior around money. And that like has a drastic impact over the long term. So really being willing to just be in that momentum and, you know, keep brushing your teeth.
Yes. Yeah, I love that idea of thinking about it like just a daily habit, and a hygiene habit is a beautiful way to think about it too. It's like, well, of course, I've got to do my money hygiene today, you know, and building it in, and into that. And that, how will we work with our astrology chart to also give us some more insight into maybe what issues are going to come up for us with money? Or, you know, you just made me think about then, you know, I have my moon and my Mars in my 6th house, and that's all the house of habits. And I was like, wow, maybe there is this a habit that I have been missing that I really need to incorporate into my day to day. And how, you know, might that be influenced by the sign that's on my 6th house or something like that? That's just what came to me then. So please tell us how you work with astrology and the money.
I think there's so many ways that I really think you can look at every aspect of your chart and reflect, how does this impact my relationship with money? Because it's so integral to our life, you know, unless you like live in a tree house and, you know, farm your own food, you need money to live in the society that we live in. And, you know, I think there's a quote from Ramdas who's like, oh, if you think you're spiritually evolved, like go and spend time with your family or something like that. And you know, it's like those relationships that are unavoidable, those are the places that reflect back to us our biggest challenges and are our most potent containers for growth. And I argue that our relationship with money is like even more intense, because we're in relationship with money every single day, you know. It's unavoidable. And so anything that doesn't feel good about money, like look at that, you know, like tidy that up. So the areas of your chart that I really like to look at. So number one is your 2nd house. That's obviously about like your earnings and your self-worth. So just look at, you know, what placements you have there. Look at the sign in your 2nd house and just journal on it. You know, like what are some of the major themes of that sign that you feel are really things that you embody or that you feel really connected to in your relationship with money? And what are some of the things that sign represents that you maybe feel are very challenging for you, or you don't at all feel connected to? And maybe that's something to explore. You know, for me, I have Libra in my 2nd house, and you know, I have trust issues around collaboration when it comes to money. And so that's something that I've really been leaning into. I'm like, you know what, Sarah, just challenge yourself, like do more collaborations, you know, like do like workshops with people, or like go into more like collaborate more with my partner even, and be open to his suggestions and have conversations, you know, around money. And just looking at maybe there's like some themes that you can pull out to really meet your edges and do something a little bit different and see how that could expand you. Obviously Venus is another great one that you can look at, and your 10th house obviously. But yeah, like you said, 6th house and your daily habits, and just you could literally go through all of the aspects of your chart and ask yourself, what, you know, reflections are coming up for me when I think about my relationship with money through the lens of this placement or this house, using it as a way to self-reflect. You know, Saturn is also a really great one about discipline and our challenges and like those hard lessons. If the more you lean into that, I'm sure that's gonna, you know, anything that you lean into around growth and your character is going to give you gifts and skills and breakthroughs that are going to show up in your relationship with money too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that idea of journaling on those themes that the sign has. It's on your 2nd house. That makes a lot of sense, and that's something I think is one of the eye-opening things about when you start working with astrology. You realize, for instance, I don't have any planets in the 2nd house, but that 2nd house has a lot to say about how I earn money and and literally my 2nd house is Gemini, and I make money through words, you know, and always have done. And you know, I started my career as a journalist, so that's how I generate my income. But it's also reflecting how I spend my money and how I value money and how I value my own worthiness. So I think there's a lot there that you can unpack about the sign and how that works with your, it's your money archetype, isn't it? That second house. So yeah, really interesting stuff. I love this. And so what is it that you are currently offering around money? Like, tell us about what you are doing with clients now to help them with their money mindset and growing their businesses.
So I'm getting ready to publish my first book, which working title
Awesome.
is The Six Figure Creative, which really, walks through the tools and the skills that I use to go from like a hot mess in my relationship with money to making money in really fun and aligned ways and like living my dream life and
Yeah.
business. So please keep your eyes peeled for that. On my podcast, which is called Creative Magic Club, every season I create money alignment prompts based on the energies of the season. So those are really awesome.
Ooh,
I
nice.
definitely recommend checking those out. I also share them on my Instagram page, which is also Creative Magic Club. And the main way that I'm working with clients at the moment is really in helping them in their business with their brand storytelling and alignment in the way that they're selling and, their offer positioning, and really using their chart to bring forward their strengths and their gifts, and also to understand their soulmate client compatibility and how to really lead with what it is that their soul clients are looking for in their storytelling. And then also, the behind the scenes alignment work, and just like I was talking about, using their charts to really acknowledge the areas where they're challenged and where they need a little bit more attention and support, and maybe some habits that are gonna, even out some of those areas that we tend to get stuck around. And yeah, just the more we lean into what it is that they're most passionate about, most drawn to, and really have a lot of gifts and skills and strengths that, we can find a lot of confidence and clarity around when we see that reflected back to us in our charts. So I find it really, really helpful for people to create offers that are easy for them to sell, because they feel so connected to them and the way that they're here to make an impact and the clients that they're here to serve. And I help people to significantly raise their rates in doing that. So making a lot more money and doing it in ways that, really create a lot of freedom and creative self-expression in the way that they're doing business.
Yes. Awesome. So tell me, before we wrap up, what are some suggestions for the current season that we're in, if you can share around that?
Yeah. So for Gemini, my belief is that literally the single thing that is holding any of us back from making more money is our willingness to ask for what we want. So this is my invitation for you in Gemini season, is to communicate, get really, really, really clear. And what is, what money do you want? And what do you want to offer in exchange for that money? And, be brave, like put your prices up, communicate your value, be really confident in the way that you're asking, really show up, really sell, make it so, so, so clear. And, it doesn't just have to be asking for clients or asking for more money. It could also be asking for opportunities or collaborations that would raise your visibility, but really stretching yourself. And the other aspect that I recommend for Gemini season is, being willing to mix it up and to experiment and to give yourself permission to follow your curiosity and your excitement and to really have fun, because I do believe that the more fun we're having, the more magnetic we are to opportunities and the people and the relationships and the things that lead to more success and more money. So, don't give yourself a hard time if you want to change your mind about something and something suddenly isn't interesting to you or is boring to you. Like, give yourself permission to mix it up, to wonder, to imagine, to get curious, to try a different direction, and really to experiment in the ways that you're making money and see, what comes out of that.
Yeah, that is such great advice for Gemini season. And I think with Jupiter in Gemini now, as we're recording this, we're going to have a year of this as well, where we're really getting into that experimentation energy and maybe allowing new and fresh ways of money coming into our lives, coming into our businesses, like allowing for that, multiple streams of income
I love that.
Gemini
Yes.
season. Why not with Jupiter and Gemini? I love that.
All the side
That's
hustles.
beautiful. That's it. But just don't burn yourself out with all the things and all the ideas. Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Sarah. This has been awesome. Hopefully we will talk again soon.